This is the game Philosopher. And as you can tell, I have no hair now. No real reason for that, but that might affect the video. Do I take one? Do I have any hats around here? Nope. So, anyway, what I'm going to talk about is, seriously, the glare is terrible on my head. Alright, so anyway, what I'm going to talk about is self-confidence, how it may be obtained. And this is a very difficult struggle for a lot of people because in our society, people tend to do what they can to downgrade other people's self-confidence. And they also tend to not do it intentionally, because sometimes you have people who will do it intentionally, but then you have people who try to be light on other people and not make them feel like they're weak or insignificant or whatever. So anyway, how do you become self-confident in society? For one, develop your self-esteem. This is very important because having self-confidence comes from having a good self-esteem, because there are parts of you cannot change, and having those parts of you that you cannot change, if you do not like those parts, then what happens to you is that you immediately assume negative about yourself. But as Michel de Montaigne would claim, that each part of me makes me more of who I am. That is a paraphrase, but of course he was talking in very crude languages, and I really want to try to get my YouTube to be more friendly towards all audiences, and I can't talk about penises or anything like that because eventually I want to get monetized once I can get monetized. But anyway, so you have a lot of people who are self-conscious about this or that. They might be self-conscious, for example, about how I was kind of being funny with my bald head, which, by the way, only happened because I screwed up my mohawk that I was sporting, and so I had to cut it because I thought it actually looked better with the bald head anyway than with a broken mohawk. And anyway, that's some things you can do because you can improve your appearance in so many ways. But let's say, for example, I were to be self-conscious about my nose. There's not very much I can do about it. Yes, you could have plastic surgery that costs a lot of money, but most people think that's that's really just a waste of time. You just have to think about how these things can actually be a bigger part of the whole. And for people who, for example, like to talk about fashion and stuff, they use fashion to give more insinuation on this part and that part, in that way, to make up for these parts which they would think are rather ugly. Now, there is more to self-esteem than looking at your own body, but now when you're looking at your personality, there's not much you can do to change your personality. If you're looking at personality, for example, that yes, you cannot change it, but there are ways you can actually adapt and make your personality more appealing to others, or even to yourself, because the worst crime I think against the self is self-loathing. If you hate yourself, then how can you even be yourself? In fact, some would argue even that self-loathing does not exist because no one exists who does not hate themselves, because even those who are very depressed are just disappointed in themselves. They are not hating themselves because they have tried hard and they have found nothing more than disappointment in the fact of what they've done and what has happened to them. And so they think it's better to beat themselves up a lot. And that causes a very destructive cycle where they eventually decide to punish themselves in some way or another. And that's pretty much how depression becomes a thing. Now, of course, you have the chemical side of that depression, but I'd like to say that most people don't really have those types of problems, and I'm not talking about people who have clinical depression or anything like that. I'm talking about people who have self-confidence issues or self-esteem issues that pretty much tears them up from the inside out. And who knows, you might have those issues, but you should not think that you have those issues really until you have tried these methods by which you're analyzing yourself, finding out if you have a habit of badly thinking about yourself or you don't like this or that about yourself. Because in doing so, you can actually see if you can fix the problem yourself. Now, I'm not downgrading people who are depressed. In fact, I've had some very bad melancholy myself. But really, if you can just think about things, things will be better. Because you have a plan that you can overcome it. Now, that I veered off from self-esteem to depression, I will talk about now that the ways in which you can get self-esteem for your more abstract features. Like, for example, you think that people may not like to listen to your ideas, or that doesn't matter, or that you may not be competent in some way of explaining. Those are very easy things to fix. For the first and most part, that you can study up on rhetoric and logic, you could actually make sure that your ideas fit with this evidence and that evidence, and that you can actually explain to people. But the goal is you shouldn't really try to convince people, because when you try to convince people, you throw yourself off so many times. It's better to just be able to explain to people why you believe certain things, and if they agree with it, cool. If they don't agree with it, at least you were able to explain to people why. And if they dislike you for it and they don't really have a reason for it, then I don't think you should be talking with such a person in the first place, because they have created a contentious environment which has caused a lot more stress than it's worth. Sometimes you have to let go. Now, further from this, you go straight to self-confidence, because we've dealt with your self-esteem, whether it's physical or even your abstract or ability of explaining. Now, self-confidence, I think, comes from knowing things. It comes from experience. Well, not really, I mean, not when you have experience, this won't be bad or that won't be bad. You know that you're capable. And by knowing that you're capable, the self-confidence triggers into and blossoms out. It changes a lot of things for you, because you can actually do more when you're more confident about yourself. Now, to be more confident about yourself, one of the best strategies I've found is actually to look at things that you doubt yourself about and try to fight the doubt by just rushing in and getting things done. If you are defeated, try not to beat yourself up about it, but learn from it. Try again and again and again until you exhaust yourself. And try more and more. Just be persistent as you can be. And in this, what happens is you dance with the doubt, put it in its place. Because, there's a little healthy nature within doubt because it helps us to be more cautious. And if I were to do a theory or a video on skepticism, I will be praising doubt. But in this case, I'm attacking doubt because when you doubt yourself irrationally, your caution is taking over too much, and pretty much you see where you should be and where you are. And you don't know how to get to where you should be because you are right here, and where you should be is right over here. And you pretty much, for some irrational reason, destroyed every ounce of planning that you could do to get from right here to right here. But it could be something so simple as to move a certain way or to change one small little thing, or even to talk with someone who might be able to help you out, or with this or that, or even to learn a simple, tiny little skill. And in this, you will find self-confidence over time. Alright, now this is the game Philosopher. Thank you for watching my video. Now on this baldness, the reason why it's bald now is because I think I said a few minutes ago that the mohawk is sporting cut it, and yeah. Let me know if you like this bald look, or if I should grow out my mohawk again, or what you want me to do with my hair, just for fun. Now, for those who are very badly depressed, maybe you might be thinking of very negative things. I will link in the description the suicide hotline. Call them. Know that people love you and care about you, and that you should consider whether or not you actually want to do something like that, because you have potential. You might not see it right now, but you do have potential, and you will get better, and things will get better.